Good morning from the capital city of Albania. We are here in Tirana and we just arrived around about 30 minutes ago, so you'll see my first impressions of this city. Albania is a country that I've wanted to visit for many years. First of all, because of its interesting history. So you might know that Albania was run by a man who was, mildly put, an absolute lunatic. His name was Enver Hoxha. And this country, for 40 years, was completely isolated from the world. It was basically like North Korea. So from 1940 till the 1980s, they had very bad relations with everyone, and the country was completely isolated. You couldn't get in and you couldn't go out. It was also quite poor, but today obviously Albania is very different. Albania has actually turned more westward and is now a member of NATO. So we are gonna explore this country, and we are starting here in the capital city. So come and join me on this adventure. As I explained a bit more of the recent history of Albania, it's also important to know that Albania was part of the Ottoman Empire for quite a long time. And you can see that immediately here in Tirana. These structures look very Ottoman, and this heritage also reflects in Albania's religious diversity. So Albania is majority Muslim. So let's go and check out this little place here, which looks like a market with restaurants. This is just a very nice area with terraces. I mean, I didn't expect Albania to be this, I don't want to say fancy, but cozy. Just look at it. Here are some shops where you can buy pipes and soap, more soap, lavender, spoons and salad forks. Yeah, these are just regular souvenir shops. But this place here, I'm not sure what it's called. I'm just gonna put it into the description. This is a really nice place to have dinner or maybe lunch. And I think that's actually what we are gonna do very soon, because I'm getting hungry. After this pretty amazing feast, we are now walking here on Skanderbeg Square, which is the main square of Tirana. And Skanderbeg was an Albanian military commander who fought against the Ottomans in the 15th century, if I'm correct. So he's some kind of national hero. And yeah, this is the main square of Tirana, and there's a mosque and a clock tower. So we're gonna go check that out in a minute. Let's go. There's a friendship monument built by the government of Kuwait. So I guess Kuwait and Albania have some kind of cooperation. And I'm here, I should mention, I'm here during Ramadan, but I haven't seen that much Ramadan going on. Most people are eating and drinking in public as well. So I suppose that Albania, or maybe just Tirana, isn't a very conservative place, but I guess we'll see more of that in the more rural areas. So yeah, we are now walking here, and what I can also see here in Tirana is that there's lots of building sites, and they aren't just building small houses, they're actually building towers. So there's one, I don't know if you can see that, and there's one over there. And yeah, I guess they are really trying to polish this city and make it look new and modern, which is a good thing. And as I mentioned before, the center here of Tirana is really not ugly at all. It doesn't look like a post-communist place, and it's also when I compare it to other places in the Balkans. Let me just cross the street here. So when I compare it to other places in the Balkans, it's actually quite beautiful and clean as well. So don't see a lot of trash, and yeah, maybe I really had the wrong expectations here about Tirana and Albania in general. But yeah, it's definitely not an ugly place. So we are now here continuing on the square. Have a look. And I have to say, the weather today is just amazing. It's sunny and around 20 degrees Celsius. And we are in the middle of April, so it's much better than in other parts of Europe. And now here you can see a small mosque right over there, and the clock tower. So yeah, this is Skanderbeg Square, the main square here of Tirana. And there is Mr. Skanderbeg on a horse. Together with the Albanian flag with the two eagles. I mean, look at this place. It's really not a bad looking city. This building, I'm not sure what it is, what I will put it into the video. This building looks a lot more communist and post-Soviet, if I might say. But the square here, very nicely polished. And there's a park and the statue of Skanderbeg, of course, the Albanian military commander. And yeah, here's the mosque and the clock tower. This is actually the opera building of Albania, together with the big flag and the new tower. And yeah, this is what the center of Tirana looks like, the Albanian capital. Not bad at all. Also, another thing that I really like here in Tirana, which is a bit different from other places in the Balkans, is that there are lots of colored buildings. So for example, this one right there is yellow, and then another one, I don't know if you can see that in the distance, is red. So it doesn't look gray and, you know, colorless as you can find it in many other places in Eastern or Southeastern Europe. Albania is more colorful, which is very nice. As is the case in most cities in the world, there's an I Love Tirana sign in front of the National Opera. And I have to say, this Albanian flag is really beautiful. I mean, it's one of those flags that is very easily recognizable thanks to the red color and the two eagles. So yeah, pretty cool flag, Albania, I have to say. And now I think we'll continue a little bit more, because there are some more cool places to see here, chief among which this mosque. So let's see if we can go in there and what we can find there. As I mentioned before, the former Albanian dictator Enver Hoxha was absolutely convinced that countries wanted to attack him. So what he did is he built over 170,000 bunkers all over Albania. Most of them are very small, made for 1 or 2 people, but there are actually a few bigger ones, and one of them is also here in the center of Tirana. So we're gonna go check that out now and see what an Albanian bunker looks like. So let's go. This is the entrance. Let's go. Thank you. Thank you. Bye. So this bunker, today it's obviously a museum and they have expositions on different topics of Albanian history, but it was built during the communist era and apparently Enver Hoxha never saw its completion, so he actually never got to see this complete complex. And this bunker was actually built so that politicians could survive a nuclear war, because apparently it's safe from any kind of nuclear disaster. And obviously the entrance wasn't public. You could only enter this bunker from one of the ministry buildings, which is right next to it. And yeah, the funny thing is that it's right in the center of Tirana. It's basically almost below Skanderbeg Square. So yeah, it's a very interesting place and really showcases Albania's history during the communist era. So here the bunker has different expositions on the Albanian army and all the different wars and revolutions that happened in this country. Because as I mentioned before, Albania does have quite a fascinating history. It's not one of those countries that was, you know, conquered by somebody and then part of a larger empire. It was actually independent for quite a long time in its history, and it had many different rulers from many different political spectrums. So yeah, Albania is a interesting country in terms of history. This room actually explains the border controls and different types of border police forces with their dogs. And as I mentioned before, Enver Hoxha was absolutely obsessed with isolation. And here's a great quote just showing this obsession. And yeah, he basically says that the border is just the most important thing and that you have to be isolated. You can't just let anybody into your country. And that was something very interesting about Albania. They basically lived without cooperation with the rest of the communist bloc. So they didn't have a lot of cooperation with Moscow, nor with Belgrade, nor with any of the other satellite states in Eastern Europe. They just did their own thing and yeah, didn't go that well in the end, as with most communist countries. This bunker basically never ends. It's just several corridors that continue and continue with lots of different rooms. So I don't know how many people could have been in here, but look at this corridor, it just continues quite a long way. So yeah, I don't know how many people they could have hidden in here during a nuclear attack, if there had ever been something like that, but I'm pretty sure it's in the hundreds at least. Oh, there's another corridor. This place is absolutely massive, and today they are mostly exhibiting the different police and border patrol forces of the communist era. But yeah, it's a really cool place to visit, to get a glimpse into socialist, Marxist, isolated Albania. Warning for people who suffer from epilepsy. You see that? This is some kind of investigation room, or I don't know, maybe interrogation room, where they would then find a suspect and just ask very, very challenging questions to see if the suspect is a spy. Look at it. Then here they have some documents. Oh, and here we have some sleeping quarters. And, you know, some rationing boxes. Yeah, this place is huge and it's absolutely super well equipped. I guess if a nuclear war ever happens, we all move to Albania because they have enough bunkers to stay alive and protect it. Let's continue. That's a cell. So if you weren't here as a politician, or if you weren't here by your own will, you would sleep in there. Doesn't look very comfortable. And here we have a decontamination room, whatever the hell that is. I guess it's something where you walk inside, then with the lights and the smell and whatever else is here, you just use all of your senses. Wow. Weird place. I'm already losing my senses without any communist interference. Oh, and there's another one. Oh, they are both connected. So yeah, I guess if you did something really bad against the regime, you would be put in here and decontaminated from whatever problems you have in their eyes. Let's go back to the other hallway, check it out. There's so much to see here in this bunker, it's really cool actually. Oh, this is the conference room, I guess. This is where they were planning and discussing stuff. Yeah, when a man begins to think that he is better than others, then evil begins. That was a quote from Mother Teresa. Oh, and I actually didn't mention that Mother Teresa is Albanian. I mean, she was, if I'm not completely mistaken, she was born in Skopje. Because, well, a few years ago I traveled to Skopje, which is North Macedonia, the neighboring country of Albania. And there in Skopje I visited her house, or the house where she was born. And I am a bit confused. Is she from Albania, or is she just Albanian? I'm sure I'll find out later, but yeah, this is one of her quotes. Yeah, so this corridor here doesn't have much left. But yeah, this bunker is just a really cool place. I'm really happy that I came here, because where else can you visit a nuclear bunker like in the city center of the capital of the country that you are in? Not in too many places. I just read a bit more about the history of Albania here in the museum, and it's absolutely mind-blowing. Around about 8,000 people were executed during Hoxha's years in power in facilities just like this one. So obviously first they were questioned and then tortured and then they died. And yeah, it's absolutely mind-blowing when you think about it, that so many people who basically were just dissidents, well, they disappeared and nobody ever heard of them again. And this was so common in Albania that people also knew about it, and so they were scared, of course. And yeah, when I mentioned before that Albania was one of the craziest communist countries, I wasn't exaggerating, because if you had anything against the regime here, well, you ended up in a bunker like this one, and you'd never leave it again. Here is a list of many political prisoners. 1,240. Mihail Dimitri Vrano. And there's just so many lists of those. So yeah, the number of political prisoners in Albania was pretty much limitless, which is absolutely incredible when you think about it, because Albania is not a big country. So today Albania has about 2.8 million people, but back then, I guess, I'm not sure how many inhabitants they had, but probably maybe a bit more because of the modern diaspora. But if there's already like 2,000 political prisoners just on one list, I mean, you can just imagine how many political prisoners they had in total. I mean, yeah, this was some regime here. So I knew that Enver Hoxha was a bit of a lunatic, but now coming here and reading about all the crimes and all the stuff that he did during his 40 plus years in power, it's just even more amazing. You know, he actually, when he came to power in the 1940s, he actually confiscated lots of private homes and farms and then turned them into torture centers and prisons. And yeah, I mean, this guy, I don't know what was in his head, but it was nothing good, because he basically tortured and starved his own population, the population of this small country of Albania, and tried to build a Marxist society, which obviously never worked. And yeah, I mean, this museum really really documents it without any filter. So well done Albania for actually, you know, talking about the history in this way, because many countries, they just want to forget the bad things that happened in the last 50, 60 years, especially during the Cold War. But Albania is really not shying away from explaining to locals and foreigners what actually happened in this country. So yeah, well done. Now back above ground, and I have to say this bunker was a really interesting place, and we actually learned a lot about the communist history of Albania here. And another cool thing that I wanted to show you is, look at these red lights. I hope you can see that on camera, but they don't just have the light which is red, but the entire lamp post, which is pretty odd. And I have to say I've never seen that in any other country. Now we are actually crossing the very small river here. There it is. Doesn't have much water at the moment. And we are heading to the place which you can see over there in the background, and that's actually a pyramid, and it's called Tirana Pyramid. Let's go check that out. And this is modern Tirana. As I said before, I mean, you know, it isn't Rome or Paris, but it isn't the ugly post-communist capital that you see in other countries in Eastern or Southeastern Europe. So it's really not that bad, Tirana. And it's getting better. As you can see, there's a lot of construction going on, a lot of new buildings. Now it's like 6 p.m, so it's really rush hour now. A lot of traffic everywhere. So this is the pyramid, but it's actually closed. I'm trying to get around here to find a better view so I can show you the building. I mean, it's absolutely brutalist. It's just a typical communist monument that was built during Hoxha's reign, but they're actually renovating it now so that it looks a little bit better. But yeah, let's see if we can get closer. I'm not sure. This is actually co-financed by the Albanian American Development Foundation. So this will be some kind of cultural center when it's finished. But yeah, I'm still trying to see if we can go a little bit closer. And this is the modern part of Tirana. Here we have some more communist buildings with horses, and yeah, actually pretty beautiful carvings there. So I'm not sure what building that is. Put that into the video, and yeah, and there you can see the double-headed eagle and this really big building. I mean, this wouldn't look out of place in Moscow.
Hello, Buddha.
Some young people cheering. Tirana is not exactly full of tourists at the moment. So I'm not gonna say that it's absolutely super underrated and that nobody has ever been here. But that being said, it's not a big tourist destination either. I mean, the coast of Albania is a lot more touristy, but the people who are actually here in Tirana, they are, I would say, mostly locals as well as a bit of diaspora. But yeah, I haven't seen that many tourists here yet. It's also April, I should say, so the main tourist season hasn't really begun yet. But I mean, it's now 6 p.m. and I'm walking here in a t-shirt. It's starting to get a bit chilly, but it's still really nice weather. So that's an argument to come to Tirana, because the weather is much better than in Western or Northern Europe during the months of April and May. Now this very interesting building, I actually thought it was some kind of business center or something. This is actually a football stadium. It's called the Air Albania Stadium. And yeah, this is where the Albanian national football team plays their games. There's some cafes and yeah, it's really nice. Back there is another huge building. Not sure what that is. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting architecture of different styles here. So that's one thing that I've really noticed here in Tirana, walking around. Another cool thing that I should mention is that Tirana is really walkable. You can just walk anywhere here. You don't really need any public transportation or a car. I mean, obviously, if you want to go on day trips or go further outside of the city center, then you'll need some kind of transport. But for the entire center here, you can just walk it. And especially when the weather is like this, then it's an absolute joy. I'm actually here on the stairs of the stadium. Let's see if we can see what's inside. Oh yes, we can. These are the stands. Oh. I just got told off by a security guard behind me. Maybe there's some kind of event, but there is no football game today, at least not of the Albanian national team, so I guess it's something else. So we are now here in a park with an artificial lake, and I guess this is a good place for me to tell you that Tirana surprised me in a very positive manner. I mean, I didn't have any expectations coming here, or maybe I had very low expectations, but I have to say that if you are in the Balkans, Tirana is a city worth checking out, and I'm pretty sure that Albania has a lot more to offer, which we'll see over the coming days. So that's it from me for today. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Goodbye.